Microsoft Excel is full of calculations, functions. We've spoken about a few of them as you've gone through this course. If functions, VLOOKUPs, HLOOKUPs, index and match functions, SUMIF, all sorts of functions. Now it's great. Excel is a very powerful, a very robust tool. Now, no matter how careful you are as you build calculations, at some point you're going to run into errors. So what I want to talk about here is how we can audit some of the formulas that you'll be creating within your career within Excel. The first feature I want to take a look at here deals with tracing the precedence of a formula, or looking to see which cells a formula uses. This is a great, excellent tool to use if you ever inherit a workbook from somebody else that has a bunch of calculations in there, but now you need to know how those calculations were created and what's going to affect the outcome of those calculations. What if I change this cell? Does that change the calculation? How about this one over here? Does that change it? Let's take a look at how we can trace the cells that a formula relies on. Take a look. So open in front of you, I've got the example file open. I'm currently on the formula auditing worksheet. This is, if you took part in the first section of this course, this should look very familiar to you. This is the if function worksheet. I just created a copy of it. Now we can use it to build an audit with. Now, let's take, for example, just one of these simple little totals here. I'm going to click into cell F5. This is H. James's total for the month of December 2015. Now, we know what cells this formula relies on. Where is it getting its sum? How is it coming up with 36,000? Well, how about this cell over here? H5. Was the goal met for H. James? Well, now it's perhaps not as clear which cells that formula is using. So I want to be able to trace what cells are really feeding information into this formula. Take a look. So I clicked inside of cell H5. I'm going to go up to my Formulas tab, top of the screen, and towards the far right you have a section called Formula Auditing. And in there I've got two trace buttons. We're going to talk about the first one here, Trace Precedence. So the idea is I've selected the cell that's got a formula in it. Now I want to know what cells contribute towards that formula. I'll give that button a click. And now it's drawing these arrows from the cells that that formula relies on. I can see that the total is included in there and the monthly goal. Let's try another one. I'm going to click on this guy down here, this 176,211, and I want to know what cells contribute towards that total. Well, if I go back to formulas, back to formula auditing, I'll give that trace precedence button a click. Now in this case, it's drawing an arrow, and it's a thick arrow all the way through those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells, the individual totals that make up this $176,000 limit here. So a simple button press, not much more than that. You click into a cell. I'll grab this number 3 down here, go back to formulas, trace precedence, and now it's drawing, right, telling me which cells rely on that or feed information into that formula. So try this out. Open up the example file or open up one of your own workbooks. Click into a cell that contains a formula and trace the precedence. Now there's kind of a flip side to trace precedence. I can also trace the dependence of a formula. Take a look. So first I'm going to get rid of these arrows that are showing me the precedence of these various formulas. To remove something, I'll go back to formulas, back into formula auditing, and I'm going to remove the arrows. Just one button press and all those arrows are gone. Now let's try this. I'm going to click into one of these weekly values. And let's grab this 6900 here. This is cell number C6. Now I want to know what other cells depend on that cell right there. Okay? The dependence of cell C6. So with that cell selected, back to formulas, into formula auditing, and I'm going to trace the dependence. Give that a click. And now it's drawing these arrows. I've got the total down here for week 2. I've got the row total for K done. And I've got the no bonus that also relies on it as well, the cell I6. So I'm now tracing what cells depend on that selected cell of C6. Let's try another one here. I'll click into this 34,000, the monthly goal. This is cell I2. back to formulas, into formula auditing, and I'll trace the dependents. Now, the monthly goal, you might remember way back when we were talking about the if statement or the if function. Each of these, was the goal met? Yes, no, yes, yes. These all rely, right, on that monthly goal. They all use it in some way. So these cells are dependent on that 34,000. So a simple button press. And just like tracing dependents, you can remove the arrows just as quickly. I go back up to remove arrows, give that a click, and I'll remove all of those arrows. This is a super slick tool, especially when you're in a scenario where you're inheriting work from somebody else. And before you get in there and start modifying the document, we can really start to audit it, take a look at what cells have formulas in them, what cells are dependent upon other cells that rely on other cells, whatever it might be. Before you really start to modify the document and tweak it, potentially breaking something, we can take a look at tracing the dependents and tracing the precedence of formulas. So once again, try this out. Get a feel for working with trace dependents. Click on a cell, maybe one of the weekly values there, or monthly goal, or perhaps one of your own workbooks. Give that trace dependence button a click and see what formulas rely on that cell's value. Along the lines of auditing a worksheet, you're going to run into scenarios where you've got calculations that span across multiple worksheets. And if I want to be able to audit something that moves across multiple worksheets, I need a way to be able to keep an eye on one worksheet and perhaps a value on one worksheet while I work on other worksheets. Now, in the past, if I were to do something like this, take a look. I've got the example file open, I'm on the watch window worksheet, and this cell right here, this $176,211, is actually a reference to another cell. I look at my formula bar here at the top, that lives on the worksheet next door called Formula Auditing. It's referencing cell F10 on the Formula Auditing worksheet. Now, I want to keep an eye on this value here as I change things on the Formula Auditing worksheet. So I jump into here, I make a change. Let's see, I change this 6,900 to 7,000, hit my enter key, and now I got to jump back to my watch window worksheet and notice, oh, it went up by $100. From 176,211 to 176,311. So now I'm doing this kind of back and forth game to keep an eye on this value here as I make adjustments in other locations that affect this cell. That's back and forth, very manual. Something that I really don't want to do, but it's something that we probably do again and again. Now, rather than that back and forth game, we're going to take a look at a feature here that's called the watch window. It's going to allow us to open up a separate window, mark a cell, such as B2 here, this 176,000, mark it as a cell that I want to watch as I work in other worksheets. Take a look. This is super simple. So I'm on the watch window worksheet. I'm going to select cell B2. I've got it selected there. I'm going to go up to my formula tab. Inside the formula auditing section, I'm going to go to the watch window. Looks like a little box with a pair of glasses. I'll give that a click. This opens up my watch window. I currently don't have anything in there, so I'm going to add a watch. And it wants to know, well, hey, which cell do you want to watch? Which one do you want to tag that you can continue to watch as you work inside of other worksheets? Well, I've already had B2 selected, so it's got it there. I'm going to hit add, and I've now got reference to that cell. I can see that it's inside of this workbook. It's on this sheet called the watch window sheet. It's cell B2. It's currently got a value of 176,311, and here's the formula that makes up that value. Now, this window is always open now. I hop over to formula auditing. I make a change. Let's say I go from 7,000 back to 6,900. Now, watch this window over here. This is the watch window, right? Watch this value. I'm going to hit my enter key. And rather than having to go back to the watch window worksheet to check the update, I can just see it right here. Now we're back to 176,211. Really simple. Select a cell that you want to watch as you work in other worksheets. Open up the add watch window, add a watch. You've now marked that cell. And now as you work in other locations within these more complex, larger Excel documents, I make updates. and I can watch those cells that are important to me. So another technique to help us audit these larger Excel workbooks. Try this out. Open up the example file, add a watch, jump over to the watch window, add one to that cell, and then go back and make some adjustments on the formula auditing worksheet. And use that watch window to help you keep an eye on those cells and the values that you're looking at. So we've got all these tools inside of Microsoft Excel that are going to assist you in having the ability to audit an Excel worksheet, or larger scale, the workbook itself. And we've seen trace precedence, trace dependence, and we've seen the watch window. Great techniques, very powerful techniques to help you audit a worksheet and take a look at formulas. Now I want to show you one more here, and this is a super quick feature. This is called Show Formulas. Now once again, here's the scenario. A coworker sent you a workbook. They've asked you, hey, can you take a look at this, make sure everything looks right, make sure my calculations are actually accurate before we print this out or send it off to our managers. Well, I could open up the workbook, like what I have open in front of you. I'm on the formula auditing worksheet, and I could go cell to cell and just confirm, okay, yep, B5 through B9 looks good. C5 through C9, great, looks good. D5 through, okay, and so on, selecting all these cells here that contain formulas. Well, me doing that manually, I'm probably going to miss something. So here's a really quick way to assist us in managing and auditing these formulas. And it's a more visual, at one glance, be able to see all the formulas. Up on your Formula tab, top of your screen, underneath Formula Auditing, there's a button called Show Formulas. And like I said, super quick, super simple. You give that button a click. This expands all your formulas. Look at that. I love these simple things. They make my life simple. Then I can see all the formulas right there at a glance. If I scroll through, I can see those larger formulas. There's the if statements and so on. But one button press, and it's a toggle button. If I go right back up there and hit that button again, Show Formulas, it'll collapse them, zip them back up again. No longer seeing the formulas. And great thing here, if I show the formulas, I can go to my File tab, and I can go to Print, and I can actually print it out showing the formulas. So if you want to make corrections, right, you get in there with your highlighter, your red marker, you print it out, start circling things, right? We need to fix this here. You need to jump back into the document, make this adjustment, so on and so on. You can print out the Show Formulas feature here. I'll hit my back arrow. I'm going to toggle it back off, take me back to my default document. Simple, simple, and quick button press, toggle button, showing and hiding your formulas.